Save 8% off your order at TruTechTools.com by using the Shop Talk discount code. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to HVAC Shop Talk. I'm your host, Zach Psioda. As the screen's about to say, hold on. Oh, there it goes. That's right. Graphics. That took me a day and a half to do. That's very sad. So this is the HVAC Shop Talk podcast / live stream. If you're watching it on YouTube, awesome, because then you can be part of the live chat. You can ask questions in the chat. You can talk to other chat people. You can do all sorts of chat crap. It's fantastic. We have a lot of stuff in the repertoire tonight, and I think I've fine-tuned about 50% of it. So as I go through my electronics and weed out all the hisses, buzz, and all sorts of sizzles, which are bad, especially in my case, we can now have people come on to the show via StreamYard. You can come onto the show via Discord. You can call in on the phone, which we can do any of those things. So I'm actually pretty encouraged, and I think this whole deal is about to work, actually. We're making it. Might play some skilled trade up this weekend too. I don't know. Maybe so. Still got to send up the prize for last week. I told Weaver it'd be sometime, and I was correct. So we have a chat full of people here. And by chat full, I mean almost a dozen, which is a lot for a Little League baseball game. Whatever, I'll take it. We have East Dallas Kicks. We have Cannon Casey. We have Ezekiel Lackey. Jessica Egan, and I believe that is all so far. Don Gillis. You know, Don's a compressor guy. He's a guy that works at Emerson. He can hop on here and talk at any point. Don, you say the word, and I will bring you onto this show, and we will illuminate people about the HVAC trade. Of course, it's 9 o'clock at night. Don might be kicking back with a beer and worried the information might be incorrect. Just kidding. Just kidding. Don's a good guy. He's been on the show before. It's awesome. And we have Jimmy Landers. I'm looking down here at the chat. In fact, I can show you guys the chat, I think, if I play my cards right here. Let me zip back over there to the other screen, and I'll show you. We have our chat right here. We have Albert. We have just a whole conversation going on right there. Albert wishes he knew more about HVAC. Hey, that's great. Jessica says, hey, Don, good to see you, man. It's good to see Don. He's all right by me. Ezekiel says, is it okay to open the king valves all the way, then back it off a quarter turn? Someone told me it would likely leak by doing that. I heard the whole opposite thing before. I remember just doing the king valves, but then backing them off so they wouldn't leak. I've actually had people tell me they wouldn't leak by doing that. That's funny. Oh, that's a trip. Well, welcome to the show. We have James is here as well. Jerry Lockhart, good to see you as well. James Patrick just left Wilmington. Hey, that's exactly, well, it's close to where I'm at. Wilmington is not too far away. It's about 30 miles to the south of here. And I live in a little town near Wallace, which is not too far away from Wilmington. Hey, if you leave Wilmington on I-40, you can make it to my house in about half an hour. So James is probably going to swing by and be on the show on the way home or something. I don't know where he's going. I don't know. Ezekiel is funny because we hear contradictory things. Let me see if I can pop up my face on the screen right here while I'm looking at the chat. I think I could probably do that. Let me see if I can work some stream magic here. Let's make the stream magic happen. Oh, look. Yep, there I am. Okay. So I will appear here in the corner while we're talking and looking over here. There's a lot of people. Good. I'm glad everybody arrived here tonight. We have a few things we can talk about anytime, guys. The show is about having conversations that you want to have. So if you want to come onto the program, if you want to call the program, I'll put the number on the screen in just a second. I don't have it on this particular screen right here with the chat, but I'll go back to the screen. We'll put the number up here. If you want to join in on the show as a guest on air, I know this is relatively new. We haven't done this with much success here lately, but back in the day, we do it quite a bit. And for the podcast guests, they typically come on the screen. So if you guys are like in a spot where you want to do that, at any time, you can always let me know before the show, before the next show, or during the show. If you have something you just want to talk about, maybe you had a call that was really crazy. Maybe you have some new information about trade stuff, anything. Maybe you know all about these new refrigerants. Maybe you have great information you want to get out there. We're going to get it out there for you. That's what the show is all about. We have Corey joining us, out of Baltimore. That's exactly how Tony Montana said it in Scarface. For some reason, that's all I hear is him saying Baltimore. I don't remember what the context is, but I always remember that moment. So, all right, guys, we have our chat. I'm going to take our chat off the screen right here for a moment. Oh, look, there's two of me. And one of me is going to go away. So I had a few things I brought up here in the, we'll call it HVAC news. I think HVAC news is probably the best way to put this. I'll bring my chat back around so I can put it in the screen in front of me. Welcome to the show, Kendall. Good to have you here as well. So first and foremost, we were talking about Blue One. We talked about Blue One, and we were trying to discover what is it all about. Now, I emailed a lady named Danica, who is at Blue One, and I can't remember her exact position. And I'm going to kick myself now, but we'll go to the website. We'll figure it out in a minute. But she said she wants to have a phone call next week, and I did ask her, and I'm waiting to hear back from her if we can record that to put it on the show so I can ask her the questions that you guys want to ask. And if you want to ask something else, I'll be happy to ask it for you. Don't put it in the live chat. If you want to ask something like that, put it in an email to hvacshoptalk@gmail.com, or you can text me at the number I'm about to put on the screen whenever we do the call-ins. So you can do it either way. It's good to see so many guys joining so early in the show. I really appreciate that. I want to go ahead and put it out there for people that are listening to this as a podcast or watching the live stream here. We are going to have our next show on Sunday night. So our next episode will be on Sunday night, and then the following episode will be on Tuesday. So we're going to do like a Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday thing to work around some stuff in the schedule as far as my kids running to the end of the year. My son's graduating high school, so there's a lot going on. And he is the battalion commander of the ROTC, as a lot of you guys know, because we've been raising money for him for his summer camp, which you can still donate to if you want to. There's information in the description of the video for that, so you can find that there. But there's a lot going on because he's graduating high school. The twins are moving up to be sophomores. I have sophomore boy-girl twins. Oh, what a story that is, but we're not going to go into that right now. Then, of course, I have my son Jackson, who's just not quite 4 yet, the straggler. The straggler's still there too. So let's go to the Blue One first. Since I already mentioned Blue One, let's bring up our other screen here. Now here we go. So I wanted to get a little bit more information on Blue One, but I realized, and I came to the screen here. This is blueone.com/HVAC-technicians. And I'll actually put this in the chat as well so you guys can see it. Jackson System Psioda is his name. That's correct. So this is the website that I'm on right here, just for reference. And it says real support for HVAC techs. And I got all the information I needed from coming to this. And this is why. Look at the endorsements. First, we have Jim Bergman from MeasureQuick. Okay, so we have Jim Bergman from MeasureQuick. Everybody loves this guy. Every single person loves this guy. So he says Blue One is one of the few products that exceeded my expectations. Simply put, Blue One gets it. And I want to say that that's perhaps referring to the app, because it says the #1 app for techs is now the largest and fastest growing HVAC community. So it's really putting together this whole community feel. We keep moving down the line here. We have just examples of the app. And it's kind of neat because it actually lays out the steps, the retrofit when you're doing this. And it looks like these are large systems. So one of the commenters said they get a lot of their stuff or a lot of their money, he kind of speculated, from retrofitting large industrial systems, which makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. It says 50,000 plus manuals, key unit information, 35,000 units. So it's a lot of stuff right there. So far, so good. It's a lot about the app, too. A lot of guys are using the app. There's tools and calculators, Blue On Pro hacks, real support, and everybody's talking like the support is fantastic. So that's pretty cool. You can download Blue On and look. Hey, look at the next endorsement. Now, they didn't spell his name right, but it's Brian Orr from HVAC School. And look at this. Guys love this. They love the HVAC School podcast. Heck, guys love it more than this podcast. You sons of guns, I can't believe this. No, I'm just kidding. It says every tech should be using Blue On. They are literally in the business to help you succeed. There you go. Man, oh man. And this is some more information about the refrigerant itself. We're still gathering intel, guys. TDX20 R458A, so the 400 series, it is a blend. It's a blend of like 500 refrigerants. That's exaggeration. There's like 5 of them in a proprietary lubricant, whatever that means. It says it's unit-specific retrofit instructions. You get that from the app. 24/7 support by real veteran techs, and that's been corroborated by everybody I've talked to. They sound like they have really good tech support. No oil change. It works with POE and MO, mineral oil, and they say that's because of this proprietary lubricant, but I don't know what that is. No capacity loss versus R22. Increases unit efficiency by 15%. I guess that's energy efficiency. So they say it's actually better than R22. Blue On TDX20 is fully ASHRAE and EPA approved with a track record of reliability and performance. Just ask around. And that's what I'm doing, and that's what it seems like. Because a lot of guys are asking, what is the deal with this? Now, I got to look at this, too. It says Control Panel Pro. This is on that same website here, blueon.com/HVAC-technicians. And this is for podcast people who can't see the screen. It says, we made field wiring a piece of cake for larger, complex units like Train and Telepack, RTUs, SCWs, and more. Easy install, reduces field errors and man hours, improves reliability and remote monitoring. So it's kind of interesting. I don't know what that's all about. We'll actually come back to that because I want to do the final endorsement for my buddy Gary McCready at HVAC Know-It-All. So there are some heavy hitters here. Man, heavy hitters here that love the Blue On. All right, I'm kind of curious about this. Let's figure this out right here. So I'm going to enlarge this. This is the Control Panel Pro. Hope everybody can see that. See, Blue On is constantly innovating to create viable solutions that enable and empower commercial contractors to better serve their customers. The Blue On Control Panel Pro allows contractors and end users to retrofit challenging commercial R22 units to Blue On TDX20 with far less risk and far better outcomes. Relatively easy to install, minimizes wiring and electronic installs in the field, dramatically reduces field install errors. It's kind of interesting. Let's go down to the features. Multiple configurations. I still don't understand exactly what this is because I don't do this line of HVAC. So maybe one of you guys that does commercial or industrial HVAC can kind of comment on this. Maybe you could call in. If someone knows about this stuff, feel free to call in at any time. The phone number is 910-970-0043, and I'm going to put it in the chat as well because it's not on the screen right now. 910-970-0043 to call in. Type that real quick. And so it says multiple configurations allowing control of 1 to 6 electronic expansion valves or up to 2 pump down circuits. Corel EVD electronic expansion valve, drivers with removable LCD displays. Just a whole bunch of stuff. I'm not going to read all this stuff, but of course it comes with technical support and everything too. That is wild right there. So that's, to me, that's an expansion of what they've been doing and just this whole, like, I guess, tech-friendly aspect to what they do. Still figuring this out. But this one right here is a little bit of a mystery to me. They have different packages here at the bottom of the page. It says airside monitoring package, enables airside measurements of supply and return air temperature and humidity, includes additional Corel pressure and temperature sensors to monitor liquid line pressure, temperature, and subcooling of each circuit. Must be used in conjunction with the basic monitoring package or pump down model. This is interesting. This is now coming off like Sensi Predict. Like they have some sort of predictive software and hardware on these machines. And that's kind of an interesting path for them to take. So it's electrical monitoring package, contains a watt node module and CTs for power consumption measurements, as well individual recordings of voltage, current, and power factor. Must be used in conjunction with the basic monitoring package or be a pump down model. So the basic monitoring package, it says, includes basic EZE monitoring with a 12-month EZE subscription, enables one-phase circuit monitoring and remote data streaming of valve position, suction temperature, suction pressures, and superheat. Battery backup and alarm indications are also included. That's pretty interesting right there. That is wild. Huh. T-Lex says, I just started installing Sensi Predict. I don't know what that means right there. So far, the verdict, he says CEEMXNEY. I don't know if that's a word he intended to say or not. So far, the verdict is out. I'm not sure yet. From the long term, I have only 2 months experience. And Jerry says, does anyone you know have an electric truck or van or salesman have a Tesla? Gas prices are killing everybody. That's an interesting question right there. If anyone wants to talk about that as well, of course, you're invited. You're invited to talk about anything here. And I encourage you to do that. I mean, that's what the show is for. I have some topics right here, but again, you can look up in the chat and see the phone number, 910-970-0043. All right, we're going to go to something different then, since we were looking at those. Okay, this caught my eye, and I don't know if you guys are going to be interested in this one or not. In fact, I'm going to enlarge the page a little bit. Hopefully you can see that a little bit better. This is from Refrigeration Industry. It says Hitachi launches the Smart Residential Air Conditioner Series Air Home. This is kind of an interesting idea, and check this out. It says, let's see, hey Zach. I'll say, hey Isaiah, how's it going? Yeah, I didn't think that was the proper word, Thomas. But it's not the first word I've seen today that I just look at and go, I'm not sure if this is a real word or not, and I'm scared to look stupid by saying that's not a real word when it is. But I guess I shouldn't hide behind my stupidity. So let's talk about this Hitachi launching the Smart Residential Air Conditioner Air Home. Johnson Controls Hitachi Air Conditioning globally launches the Hitachi Smart Residential Air Conditioner series named Air Home, equipped with a variety of smart and intuitive functions that will help users maintain a comfortable indoor environment while improving indoor air quality as well as saving energy. The first model of the Air Home series will be available throughout Europe, starting with France this April and later becoming available in Asia. Air Home is equipped, this is the part that caught my eye, Air Home is equipped with the front wash function to keep the heat exchanger in a cleaner condition, providing a more comfortable indoor environment. Front wash is an automatic self-cleaning feature that freezes the heat exchanger down to -15 Celsius to trap pollutants and dust in ice, which then melts to flush them away. This leaves the unit cleaner and dramatically reduces the possibility of pollutants being spread from the AC unit across the room. Tests have shown that systems with front wash are 3 times better at maintaining airflow performance than those without this technology. Of course, it's not whenever, it's frozen. That's not the time in which the airflow performance is good. It's after the freezing, when it starts back up again. That's when it's better. With this technology, users can enjoy the benefits of Air Home with easy maintenance. The following features will be available depending on the series. Let's see if these are interesting or not. Air Home's Smart Eco function, which detects the human presence and absence and adjusts the operation to decrease energy waste. Well, that's not new right there. A lot of them have the CNI on them that know when you're in the room. Front wash, we just talked about. They can have Air Cloud Home smartphone app. All right, all this seems like same old thing, same old stuff. But that's wild. Let's see that Thomas says, I'm waiting for full electric vehicles produced by Toyota for a work vehicle before I do the switchover. I'm currently using a hybrid getting 48 miles to the gallon. I'm not crying about the gas prices. My truck gets like, I don't know, not very much at all. We'll come back with some of this other stuff. Oh, except for I'll do the other Blue-On one real quick. ASHRAE recognized Blue-On as top HVAC innovator. This is more for the journey of, is Blue-On the best or not? At something. Blue-On claims a top 2022 award for its industry-leading platform to support technicians. So again, it's not about the refrigerant. It's about the platform. It's about the community. We were talking about that. Blue-On Incorporated, a fast-growing company with a mission to increase the capacity, performance, and GMV. I don't even know what that means. of the HVACR industry by empowering its technicians has received a top software innovation award ahead of the 2022 AHR Expo. So it says Blue On is more than a mobile app. It's more than a support platform. And let's see some of the stuff. Does it have anything cool written right here? The fact that they won it is really the thing. This is from Business Wire, a Berkshire Hathaway company. So it's more about business than about air conditioning. It says, and here it says 45,000 unique models. Well, that is interesting stuff right there. Man, my son's also texted me telling me he fell asleep because he was tired. That's great. That's great that people know when I'm working. Blue On is more than a mobile app. It's more than a support platform, said the chairman and CEO, Peter here. Blue On is 70,000 technicians, soon to be 150,000, or half the industry. Is that right? Who are supported and connected like never before? Are half of you guys out there on Blue On? Is that representative here? I don't know if it is or not. Let's look at the chat here. Put them up on the screen. We do have a call. Let's answer the phone. Hello, you were on the air.
Zach.
Yes, sir.
Don Gillis here. How are you?
Don, I was hoping you would call. How you doing?
Not too bad. Yeah, not too bad. Pretty decent. Always enjoy calling in, listening to your podcast. Been resting up a little bit and had opportunity recently to listen in on some things, and you always do a good job. So, anyways, how are you doing?
I appreciate that very much. I'm doing really well. I love my job, so I'm doing great.
You seem like you love your job.
I enjoy this a whole lot. It's better than the crawl space, which is where I'll actually be on Saturday. We're turning to the field, unfortunately. So how are you doing? What are you working on now?
So, this would be normally a time where we start to slow down. And, when I first hired on, I was briefed that, we'd be going into our curriculum time, but I'll try to give you a good visual here. I'm assuming it's the backlash of COVID. I don't know if everybody's sick of the e-learning or on-demand stuff, but we've had a really good problem, probably like a lot of instructor-led courses. But I think I started out in mid-August 2021. I don't want to over-exaggerate, but I'd say maybe 3 weeks. One of those was between Christmas and New Year's. I was home. So we normally would be slowing down right now, Zach. I'm actually leaving for New York next week for a 3-day cost class. The week after that, I'm going to Connecticut. Not just myself, others obviously too. But I think I'm going to be doing classes up until June, which from being in the business, it's hard to get technicians in the classroom when they start, sun starts shining like that. So
yeah,
kind of in uncharted waters right now. It's a strange times. Plus, I noticed our calendar's already, nothing to do with me. Just the demand's there evidently, but they've already booked our calendar up from. I looked at the other day. It's mid-August all the way up to the first of the year. It's already booked. So right now, what I did this week, what I'm doing is I'm catching my breath. I'm going out and kind of doing some stuff today. I drove to Indianapolis and shook hands with my old stomping grounds, some friends like Eric Kaiser, Matt McKinney. I'm sure you know Eric.
Oh man, I know Matt too, man.
Yeah, Matt's they're good people, and I kind of Matt when no one in the world even knew who I was. Matt was very helpful. Him and his dad used to own I-Core before Chemours bought him in refrigerant over in Indianapolis. So we go back a ways. We used to dart doors together and stuff. When I reinvented myself from being a service manager, I spent about 2.5 years as a TM prior to coming to Emerson, so I didn't know what I was doing. So Matt was kind enough to kind of take me under his wing, like, I got you. And so I went over there and just kind of, got out of the office today. So really just going out, visiting schools and doing those kind of things, having fun right now, just kind of catching my breath and relaxing, decompressing, if you will. So
when you get back to teaching classes, what are you going to be teaching?
So next week will be our signature 3-day cost class, compressor operations service seminar. So it starts out, day one is pretty much fundamentals. We literally start with the refrigeration cycle. We go into best practices somewhere before lunchtime. Shortly after that, we'll go into compressor fundamentals, which is basically, the two takeaways from that is typically what I always emphasize when I'm doing that section is, watch on the performance charts, or what we used to call as curve charts, is how much effect a little bit of drop in suction pressure has. It's almost the equivalent of a lot of rise in head pressure, if you will. And then we also teach them how to calculate compression ratio. Just simple things like that, small sections. I think I end it with mobile apps. I plug and play, actually
Mm-hmm.
plug into my phone and have them follow along. And then day 2 would be the best way to describe that, Zach, would be it's from bell to bell. It's all compressors. So it starts out with the older technology. We start out with the air-cooled stuff, the K-bodies, and we work our way all up to the very end of the day. I think we get in, I know we get into modulation and ended up with like variable speed, but it's literally just everything from every compressor Copeland makes, basically from bell to bell. It's a lot of information in a very short time. And day 2, your head's kind of spinning after you're done with that one. Day 3, we get into the hands-on then, and that's kind of a causes and corrections. You kind of, okay, you've seen what we did here. You've seen day 1 fundamentals. You know the compressors now, the safety switches. You know that. And then you go through the topics of what is flooded start, what is flood back, how do you, what could cause overheat, those kind of things, and then you flip that and okay, if we know that's what causes it, how are we going to correct it, kind of thing, and give them visuals. And then usually mid-morning on the day 3, then Zach, we're washing up ready for lunch, and we go out and we tear compressors down the rest of the day for about 4 hours or so.
Fun.
Come back in the classroom. Yeah, come back in the classroom. What we do is we don't know what we're going to get, so it's cool because the instructors have no idea what we're going to see. We're just as surprised as the students or the technicians are. We literally, people, not me personally, but people on the team from Copeland, when we're still not moving around, they're calling it advancement, saying, hey, we got 24 people. In a perfect world, we'd like to have 3 people to a compressor, or 2 people, or whatever that looks like. So they're literally they're saving their warranty compressors instead of turning them in, banking them for us. And then, they'll just get like a hodgepodge from a 6Ds to, anything that we want. It could be a scroll, it could be anything we want. So we try to get a nice variety so everybody can see stuff that's out there with different visions. And then, so it's pretty cool. That's one of the bigger staples. A big hot class this last year was one we call Fit for the Future, and it's all this A2L stuff. It's been a hot potato throughout the States this year. Caught me off guard because the class has actually been out there for 3 or 4 years, and I think it sold one time.
That's what we talked about last time. Remember, we talked about that before. That was a big subject for us.
Yeah. So the closer we get to that date, 2023, 2024, everybody's starting to like, hey, it's almost here. We might want to start looking into this kind of stuff. Yeah. So, you know how it is. You know how contractors, my 37-year-old, our 37-year-old is a licensed contractor. And if I brought up A2Ls right now, I said, Dad, I just don't have time for that. You know what I mean? I'm putting out fires right now. You know how it goes. So
absolutely. Yeah, that's absolutely right. But that's a huge subject now because Carrier is going to do A2L starting next year, right?
Yeah. 454B, they announced a couple of years ago. They were one of the first ones to come out, as you probably know. I don't know if you know that or not, but they were one of the first ones to come out. That I still get a bunch of trade magazines come to the house monthly, and they were one of them. Like they were like the first one, and I had a theory then that, if you remember correctly, I know you do, but as I talk to younger students, you may not remember this, but Carrier was the one that first announced Puron, and people look at you like Puron, as we know 410A today. Right. So, I kind of to give them a little history lesson there. And my vision is, this was 2 or 3 years ago now, or whenever Carrier announced, I said, I just can't imagine us having this, 6 different 410As. So my theory is, when Carrier announces so early out of the gate, more than likely people are going to follow. Like York is going to follow now. York's on board. I think Train's on board. I mean, there are some places, and you know as much about this as I do, Zach. I'm just rambling, but there are some places where R32 is going to be a good fit.
That's what I was thinking about. Yeah. Because there's already a substantial amount of equipment out there running on R32. So are you thinking that it's going to end up being these 2 refrigerants? Because then there's another one, and I can't remember the designation for it. Maybe it's Solstice from Honeywell, Solstice N41 or something. And there's another one out there, but I don't know if anyone's adopted that as their primary refrigerant.
So here's the deal. And hopefully this doesn't I don't, it's not going to give me trouble. I'm going to just word it like this to you. It's been on our sheet for a long time. This, I don't know the name. You said it better than I could have. I don't talk about it much because here's why. It's not, we have not, here's where I don't know enough about it as far as behind closed doors. I don't get involved in that. You know, I only have so many badges that can get me in so many rooms and things like that. So there's a lot of testing that goes in this behind the scenes, as you know, in compressors. And sometimes, and they don't publish, um, sometimes I don't know, you know, all I know is that it hasn't been approved in our compressors yet. I know that if it's the one you're talking about, so it really looks good on paper, and here's why. It's an A1. It's not mildly flammable. Is that the one you're referring to?
That is the one, yes.
Yeah. It's been out there a while, but I was told, hopefully I'm not getting in trouble here, but I was told months ago or a year ago that, hey, we're really not talking about that one too much because we haven't approved it in our compressors yet. Now, what does that mean to you and I? Does that mean it's not doing well in behind closed doors? I don't know, but all I know is it's, we're not pushing any refrigerant. Okay, I want to make that very clear. We're just making compressors, and it doesn't know what refrigerants it's seeing. We're just, so we test everything. It doesn't know if it's CO2 or if it's, A2Ls or what it is. Okay. So I'm not here advocating any refrigerants by no means, but, on a personal note, from what I've seen, is it looks to me like Tomorrow's 454B has been and looks like it's going to come out pretty good on this one. That's the way I see it. And it's, when it comes down to it, Zach, it's all 30. They're all some mixture of 32, right? I mean, 410A was a mixture of 32, right? Half of it was R125 as a fire deterrent, but that's what's getting into trouble now with the GWP, right? Everybody knows that.
Yeah, that's right.
454 is the same way. It's like a third of it's a 32 for the capacity part of it, and then they're watering it down, for lack of better words, with like 123YF and things like that. You know what I mean? But 454 looks good from what I see. But I do that section quite a bit. I spoke on it a couple months ago at Caesar's Palace at the Johnstone's National Convention. It's a hot topic right now. These A2Ls are as it should be, probably. I guess we're getting to that final hour. But the one from Honeywell, you would think, being that it's A1, and maybe it still will take a shine. I don't want to beat it up here or anything. I just know that right now that it's not been. It's as of 2 or 3, 4 or 5 months ago. We were told, we haven't. No testing has been finalized. Where the 454s, B, C, A's, they're actually with A bulletins now from Copeland's side of it. They've been approved, they've been tested, and those kind of things. So,
are you saying that 454B, there's also a 454A and C that's going to be used in equipment that's going to be out there?
Yes, I'm. Yes. I'll double check my facts on that, but yeah, you can quote me on that. There's a 454C and an A, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. I'm most familiar with the 454B because that's the one that made the most noise out of the gate. But I believe if you look at it too, and 454C and 450A, I'm not in front of my computer right now, but for medium and low, I believe you'll see that also.
Would it be reasonable to assume that if a carrier, let's say carrier was initially out with 410A Puron in the mid 90s, and that sort of led to people following suit, because when these guys come out with this designation for their units, they're going to use this particular refrigerant. You guys are building their compressor, so that kind of gives them an edge, because if you have to build their compressor to go in that unit, then other people are going to say, well, we're going to use the same refrigerant because you're already building the compressor that we need, instead of building a completely different compressor, or if they could both use the same compressor. I don't know. Some of them may or may not. Like the A1s and the A2Ls, I imagine there's some differences between the compressors because of A2Ls. Is that right?
Well, it's funny. We talked about this today. I talk about it all the time, but as odd as this sounds, there is not a lot of difference in the compressors. I think where now when we get into 290s, that's a whole different ball game. R290 on the propane stuff, that's a different animal in itself, and you will see different casing and stuff on the electrical. But as far now, here's what you're gonna see. This is the best information I received from engineers, because it was really bothering me. Like, well, Chemours wants to do these, this I'm talking about a year ago, wants to do these presentations together. They want to talk about A2Ls, and they want me to talk about compressors. But honestly, what's the difference in our compressors? I mean, it's still a compressor. We're still compressing gas. It doesn't recognize that it's mildly flammable. And what was suggested to me is that where you might have seen rotolocks before and things like that, maybe they will be brazed and they'll be or welded and that kind of stuff in manufacturing. But as far as the internal part of the compressor, it's still, there's not a whole lot of change there that I'm aware of. Now, if tomorrow they announce, the floating seal on a scroll is slightly different because of yada, 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 I'm not privy to that right now. But as far as I know, I'm not aware of anything different internally. But keep in mind that a lot of these A bulletins, literally, I said every morning, if I'm not in flight at 8 o'clock in the morning Eastern time, I'm in a meeting with the application engineers that write these bulletins up by phone. I'm in that group every Monday morning at 8 o'clock. And I know as of a couple months ago, they were just putting the final touches on the A bulletins, the application engineer bulletins, which there has to be a bulletin written before it can go into play. And they were just approving like 454B. Now it's probably been tested for 4 years. You know what I mean? Like a lot of these refrigerants, if I go to stretch my legs and go back in the lab and just kind of look around, not really even trying to look for anything, you'll see these numbers years and years in, way before we actually start talking about them out in the field, because there's a lot of testing that goes on prior to it, as you can imagine. It can, what I mean? So, but I don't know if I dodged your question there, but
No, I think because you're saying how the compressors are very similar, and that makes sense to me based on what I've learned from interviewing guys like you, guys like Jason Obshute, is that the refrigerant itself, R32, the burn velocity, and Thomas and I, who's in the chat, were kind of going back and forth on this on LinkedIn. But the burn velocity is so low, unless you have an open flame, there's no real risk. It's not going to burn. So I could see how the reasoning would be that you're not going to have any issue inside of a compressor that would cause an extended open flame. But that being said, though, they're building recovery machines that say suitable for use with A2L. But I don't know what's the difference between that recovery machine and the previous model, which wasn't suited for it.
Right. Yeah. And again, Eric Kaiser and I and Matt McKinney, we started talking about this today because Matt shared something with me that I wasn't aware of. And I said, no, I'm locking that one away. That's going to be a story in one of my classes now, because I love getting little tidbits like that. But he was telling me, like in California, now I don't know who's policing this. I'm assuming the building departments, but he was saying they're required to go down to 250 microns. And he says, and he goes with A2Ls. I said, seriously? I said, man, I go to California all the time and teach. I never heard that before. He goes, yeah. He goes, and then he kind of quoted the law or whatever the number was or whatever. And I said, really? And he said, yeah. And I said, so what's the thinking behind that? And he said, well, that you have to get down to 250 microns, and then you have to hold it for a length of time. And then, of course, then in that aha moment, that light went off my head. I go, there. So they're making you hang on longer to that, proving that you don't have a leak for fear that this, now we got a mildly flammable refrigerant, even though it's, the upper and lower limit of this flame possibility is, I'm not saying it's slim to none, but it's, as even somebody from Chemours, the analogy gave me, like it's, R290 is like taking a torch right to the fumes, and A2Ls is like, rubbing your feet on carpet and causing a little shock, a little zap. You know what I mean? It's apples and oranges. The chances are very slim to none, but the fact that there is a chance, that we have to let people know that. You know what I mean? We because of lawsuits and what have you. But like I always tell everyone, even an A1 refrigerant with enough heat to it will explode, right? So that's when people say A1s and no toxicity. I'd rather say low toxicity, because even CO2 at 15,000 parts per million will kill you, asphyxiate you, so it's a slippery slope there. But I think once all the buzz is out of here, here's how I feel about it. This is what I told the gang today over at Gustav Larson at the grand opening there. I said to them, I said, remember how we were all like 410A when we had to go get certified for that, and it didn't even go into our 608 or whatever. We were all like nervous about it. Man, those pressures are crazy, this and that. Honestly, after we get this out in the field in 2 years, I just don't see. I think all the newness is wore off of it. We're all used to it. Will we see some things differently? Absolutely. The things that are scrambling on behind the scenes right now, in my opinion, and everything that I'm hearing, is just what I thought from day one, from being underneath such scrutiny of codes, and where I'm licensed at and my son's licensed at in Fort Wayne, Indiana. You can't put a coil in. You can't put an evaporator coil in a residential unit without having to pull a permit. So
Wow.
what I knew then, when they started talking about all these things, or I felt I knew anyways, well, if our technicians don't know about it, that's going to training, then how does the building department know about it? How does the fire department, the volunteer fire departments know? Well, that's what's catching up to it right now. And you see it state by state too. Washington, Florida, some of these are actually implementing these A2L codes right now. That's where a lot of the work's going on behind the scenes. I listened to Green Chill the other day, one of their webinars yesterday, I believe it was, and they basically confirmed that thought. The topic, I think, was on A2Ls, and they were talking about a lot of stuff they're scrambling to do right now, is try to catch up with this date that the EPA set in place. And so now all your building departments and everything's going around, well, what does that look like? And you're going to start hearing mitigation 1 and mitigation 2 with 290. Will that door be able to stay in that little hallway there if the ice machine's there, and things like that? The square footage you have, and all those things need to be coming into play now.
Something I was just thinking about. The chat guys are talking about it too, and you may or may not know this because this isn't really an Emerson thing, but do you know what the View 1 press fittings is going to be with these A2Ls? Have you heard anything about that?
Yeah, I have not. It's probably the second or third time that's been brought up to me, how we feel about it and things like that. I have not heard anything from the Emerson Views. Someone just brought it up 2 or 3 weeks ago in class. A bunch of wholesalers were in town that we were training for Copeland technical specialists, and someone asked that question. I said, honestly, I haven't heard anything about it. I do know this, that I walked in one of the labs one day. I can share this with you. In a lab that I don't really have privy to a lot of times, but I happen to be in the area and was invited in. And again, there's a lot of testing that goes behind in Sydney, Ohio. And a lot of people think it's testing for Copeland. It's every manufacturer you can imagine, because they have such testing facilities there. There's so many millions of dollars worth of testing facilities there. It doesn't make sense for a Train or a York or a whoever to go build test facilities when we already have there. They can just sub us out to, to do that work for them, if they run into problems. So I do know that I saw someone's brand in that testing lab being tested. The press lock or I'm trying to think what is Zoom lock and those kind of things, or whatever they're called. I do know that there was one in one of the labs that they were testing, because I inquired about it, because I just caught that era as I was leaving the field. We were just starting to use it as I was leaving my service manager's position. So I kind of never really worked around it a lot. Used a lot of PEX and stuff on the plumbing side, but I did install some of that afterwards, when I did my short little stint in the wholesaler, because the way they were promoting that at the beginning was, as you probably know, you probably know all this already, but I'm just talking now. But it was a hard sell at the beginning. So what they were doing was, this tool was so expensive, and everybody on the line is probably saying, "Yeah, I remember that." They were actually loaning the tool out. A lot of the wholesalers were. That's how they were getting them to buy this material at the beginning. If you remember this, I don't know if you remember this or not.
I do. It's like an HVAC drug dealer.
That's kind of how it started. But anyways, go ahead.
I was just saying it's like the positive version of a drug dealer. Give them a few free samples, and all of a sudden they keep
Exactly.
coming back.
Very good. Very good analogy. I thought it was genius, to be honest with you. Because the price of the machine, I don't remember what it cost anymore. I thought, well, no one's going to buy that. So the first time I heard, well, the wholesaler's going to let you borrow their tool if you buy the fittings from them. It's like, well, that's pretty good. That's customer service, Well, it didn't take long when somebody started using it. Like you said, they came back and thought, how much is the tool? You know what?
Yeah.
That's pretty dang easy. They just want to show them, how simple it was and how quick it was and how, cost effective it was. And then they knew they were going to buy the tool, and they did.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a good plan. And, here's why I thought of this is what I'm imagining. I had a conversation a few weeks ago with a technician that lives about 4 hours west of me. His name's Albert. And he talked about getting a Zoom lock or the equivalent or whatever, RLS or whatever, and making a repair in a wall where he didn't want to braze. He couldn't get in there and braze. So my concern then becomes, or in the future, people reuse line sets all the time. I'm sure people are going to do it to the end of time. So whenever they reuse the line set, if the press fitting isn't rated for the new refrigerant, no one's ever going to know about it. So that's what I'm curious about. Is it going to be like a serious issue or a non-issue?
Well, my question to you is, because I don't know, I guess, or have you heard, or is anybody on your call know, have they had issues with leaks on this stuff before A2Ls? I guess I'm not even aware of that. So I've been out now about 7 years. It may be a little longer now. I've been in Emerson for just at 5 years, so in 2.5 years as a TM. So I've never heard anything bad. Is there issues going on out in the field to where, because you're still going to have the same pressures and same things. So, but yes, now you have something that's mildly flammable. But was there issues prior to? I guess I don't even know that.
According to what I've done, a few of them, and I have them in operation, and none of them have leaked to my knowledge thus far. Now, guys in general I see that are in the chat seem to trust it. The guys who used it, although there is a general mistrust of the practice based on the fact that people say brazing never fails, and I can see their logic in that. I know there's logic behind using a Zoom lock based on where you can't use flame or you need fire spotters and stuff like that. That was a big deal with their advertising. But I don't think there's an overwhelming failure rate or anything like that that would be alarming. I just would wonder about, just retrofitting and just what would they do? Because RLS, I know, is on top of this. And I know you can't say, but I'm guaranteeing that RLS was probably in that laboratory at one point or another. Because they're on top of things.
It's all, there's a lot of stuff that goes on. And as I often say, too, on even our AE Bulletin 93-11, well, when people look at that, it's all the lubricants and refrigerants we approve. Well, you'll see some things that are very commonly used are not on that sheet. Now, I would look like a big hypocrite if I'm setting in, somebody's wholesaler where they're selling that product and I'm telling it, well, if it's not on this sheet, it's no good. So the way I explain that to them is it's this simple. It's the truth. I don't know if they spent their money and it failed, or if they decided, you know what, I don't need Copeland's 1-year warranty. Brand X is going to warranty that compressor for 10 years and it supersedes that 1 year. So I don't need to spend millions of dollars to prove it to Copeland. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't know what happens behind closed doors. That's where I'm just not privy to that. And quite honestly, Copeland, rightfully so, is very good. Even my coworkers, we just don't talk about things like that. It's kind of everybody knows their area, and you're just better off not to, loose lips sink ships, I guess.
Yeah, going behind the closed doors is just a select group of guys, And that's fine. None of them ever call the show because they can't tell us anything. So.
No. Thankfully, you have someone that knows, isn't privy to any of that stuff. I mean, I am, but I'm not. I'm not into those kind of conversations.
Right.
I walk past those things, but I'm not in their meetings.
Well, that's okay. I mean, you've given us a lot of information here. I have just something I was thinking about, since R32 is a big one out there because it's in use. Do you guys build R32 compressors? I would assume you do.
Yeah, we do. So R32 is, so I received a list the other day of all the companies that we do compressors for on the air conditioning side. I don't have them in what applications they're all in, but there's very few companies that we don't make compressors for on the air conditioning side. And the same thing goes for refrigeration. I already knew the refrigeration side pretty much, only because most of the classes I do are more refrigeration driven, for whatever reason. Just more demand there, probably because, if you screw a compressor up there, it's $7,000 as opposed to $900, which isn't cheap either, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So people are more likely to pay, $300 a day to sit in an 8-hour class, because, you lose a lot of product at a big store. You lose that account. That's big money. So,
absolutely.
But as far as what models and those kind of things, I don't know. You know, anything I'm going to tell you, you already know. Our R32 has been used. Asia never did go to 410A, as we all know. They went right to R32. That's why where R32 came from. It's a Daikin product. Before I had ever heard of Daikin before, they were already using 32. That was their product. It wasn't until they bought Goodman and started to move to the States and made some big power moves here in the last 10 years. Daikin's almost like a household name now. I mean, 10 years ago, you didn't hear a lot about Daikin. I mean, when it came on the move, it was quick and hard and heavy, and they had a lot of money. But they own Daikin, so they got a little skin in the game in everybody's product, because, as we said earlier, 32 is the kind of the secret sauce in a lot of these new refrigerants, as far as they're simulating 410A. Half of 410A is 32. You know what I mean? So it's in everything. Again, I don't know what compressors are using R32 that we make. All the brands that I've seen that we make compressors for, I don't think there's a brand out there that we don't make a compressor for. At some level.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I see a lot of
If you walk through the factory, you see them come down the line, you see them all black, and then all of a sudden you see them all gray, or you see them all orange. Maybe 10 or 15 lots of them. You know what I mean? So there are compressors, but we may be painting them over them for someone else. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, I'm familiar with some of that already. I've seen a few that painted over compressors, so they call something slightly different, but the model number is about the same.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. And there's a lot of this I learned in the last 5 years, to be honest with you. I didn't know all that. I've learned a lot about the compressor world, obviously, for obvious reasons, being here that I didn't know. But it's opened my eyes to a lot of aha moments, like, oh, okay, now I get that. I see what's going on there. So yeah. But a lot of the technology is the same. A lot of what I've noticed is, as you already know, again, you're a smart guy. It's a lot of it seems to be where the difference is the communication part of it. Nothing to do with the compressor. That technology stays the same. The 2 stages, it's first stage 67%. Second stage is 100%. And all we're doing there is just basically, it's almost like a reversing valve. It slides and bleeds off gas out of that scroll set, and bleeds just enough, the way it's machined, to where you're running about 2/3 of capacity there. And then when you go to that second stage, it blocks those bleed ports on that scroll. It's almost like a clutch. It shifts, blocks those ports off where it doesn't bleed that gas off, and then you're fully loaded. And that's the technology behind that. And they're all similar, not exact, but they're all similar in some way, fashion, or form, like that, loading and unloading.
All right, I have one final question for you. I don't want to keep you up all night long. But
you're fine.
I keep thinking of these things. It's whenever you say something, I think of a question to ask you. So this is my question here, and we're kind of veering off the previous subject. So you're talking about first stages and second stages, and unloading the scroll, then having it fully loaded for the second stage. So if I'm imagining this correctly, and you're sort of like bypassing a little bit in first stage, is second stage going to be the more efficient stage per capacity than first stage? Does that make sense? That question?
Yeah, it does. So think of the second stage as a fixed compressor, basically, as a full capacity. The idea is on second stage, as long as second stage has been around, as long as I can remember, the idea is to keep it in that lowest stage, even if it runs, because it's designed to run a long time, right? I know when we first started putting in 2-stage geothermal units. I don't know how many complaints I got, especially with engineers. It's like, this thing, it's been running all night. It's like, well, it's 15 below outside. It's designed to run all the time. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? That's the nature of the beast. You know what I'm saying, Zach? But
Yeah.
you don't know what you don't know. Homeowners don't know. So, but it's more efficient to run in that first stage, as with electric and what have you, to pull that full load in that fixed scroll. And that's the beauty of, like, using your digital compressors on rack systems for refrigeration guys. That's the beauty of that. And variable speed, and I don't have a crystal ball, but everything VFD, everything's going to be VFD within, gosh, I just a ballpark it. I mean, you're going to see a big change, I feel, in our industry, and everything, fans, everything in VFD. VFD is where everything's going to go. It's just that technology is just, it's just incredible. It's just really, really incredible in technology. So, I mean, you'll see a lot more of that. If I can give any advice to any young technicians out there or senior technicians out there, that as quick as you can get around variable speed of any sort, fans, compressors, VFDs of any kind, even if it overwhelms you, or you're one of those people like I am that I have to read something twice sometimes to retain it, just start, getting around it a little bit at a time, just so the light will go off one day as you get around, because I think it's inevitable you're going to be working around it, whether you like it or not. It's just where everything's going to go.
Do you guys have specialized classes for that?
Yeah, we just recently, as sad as that sounds, in the last 2 years, put some things together, and it's growing really, really fast. I was involved in some stuff behind the scenes that were kind of like, hush hush stuff. But we unveiled our own drives recently, about 6 months ago. I can talk about it now. Emerson has their own drives now, where you can put your drives on the compressor and make certain models. A lot of the models, variable speed. So, but we have an actual variable speed, a true variable speed, obviously, compressor. And we talk about that in our cost class, the class I referred to it earlier. We also talk about it in our scroll one day class, because we start out with, the basic fixed scroll, the moving components that are pretty much standard in all scrolls. And then as we move along and we get into modulation, we point out to them, okay, in this application, in two-stage or digital or variable speed or whatever that is, we start saying, now this is the way that we're modulating the load here. The takeaway is, when we talk about modulation, we're talking about load matching. We're just, what does that look like, load matching? And some things fit better than others. Digitals fits like, it can stay within a half a degree. It's not real quiet technology, so you don't want to put that on a rooftop unit above the plant manager's office. Wouldn't see it probably in residential. You know what I mean? But it's great technology, and technicians love it, because it's literally just loading or unloading the scroll set. It's a solenoid valve that basically, it's just load. It's running in 20-second intervals, and it's matching the load from 10% to 100%, a call for capacity. So, it's not shutting down. It's loading and unloading, and basically just lifting that scroll setup. So when it stays running like that, as we're not getting that inrush current, first of all the time. We're not pitting those contactors, and we're staying within like a half a degree. So you'll see it a lot in museums and things like that, where humidity and temperature control are really, really, crucial in that environment. So, and people love digital. And then variable speed, if it wasn't so darn expensive in some applications, I think everybody would have variable speed. I know when they first unveiled it years ago in residential, I mean, the price point was so high. It was like, yeah, it's great technology, but who can afford it? You know what I mean? But like everything else, that starts driving down. So
it's interesting. Okay, this is going to be my real last question now.
Okay.
I promise. Right. So you're talking about this. I don't know a whole lot about this. This is not my segment of the industry. But from what I understood from, just previous guests on the show and just reading, there's multiple types of ways to create a variable speed system. And you're describing, and stop me if I'm wrong, two types, which would be the VFD changing the frequency going to a compressor electrically,
Mm-hmm.
or a second one with an a solenoid valve, which is operating. And this is the part where I'm trying to reach back in my memory. Is it pulse width modulation control?
Mm-hmm. 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 Mm-hmm.
So it's
Yeah,
on off
that
signals.
yeah, and that's the that's the true variable speed, if you will, pulse width modulation. And I don't want to come off like a super expert with it, but I can get around pretty good. I learned a lot about a month ago because I had a whole classroom full of Copeland engineers that's all they do is variable speed. So they kicked me my gut pretty good a couple of different times on some things, but I'm real good about stuff like that. It's like, I want you to tell me I'm full of crap. I want you to, because I don't know what I don't know. This is what you do every day, and they appreciate that. You know what I mean? But yeah, so at the end of the day, the pulse width modulation, I believe that's your, what am I trying to say? Zach, the motor I'm trying to think of, gosh darn it.
Oh, I'm not going to be of no help to you. I
Yeah,
imagine that was
that's
the
okay.
digital scroll is the one you're talking
It's no
about.
big deal. So when you're talking about the VFDs or the drives and stuff like that, you're literally, everything's going to start out alternating current, as we know. Okay. And whether you're coming in 3-phase or single phase, when you leave that board, okay, the motor's going to see 3-phase. And really, it's, when I do when I explain it in a presentation and then show them on a board, it's basically you're taking the alternating current, what's that first stage? Now I'm going to draw a blank here. Um,
On the spot here in a random podcast you didn't even know you're going to call into 2 hours
that's
ago.
okay. No. It's okay. Anyways, you have three different. Think of it as three different sections on your drive, and then in the middle you'll have what we used to like our capacitors, our buses, and that cleans that voltage up that's coming from the transformer, from your power lines. Okay, you store it there, and then you change it, and you're still DC. Okay, but then you get into these gates. They're like switches. This is where where the pulse width modulation is on true variable speed. But on the variable speed drives, the switches actually are going on and off really quick. They're called gates. And you're flipping them on and off to where you're stopping that DC current, if you will, to where the motor actually thinks it's seeing AC. So you're opening and closing those switches, and the faster you open and closing them, you're manipulating the hertz, which is changing the speed of the motor. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I
So
think I
the
follow you.
motor thinks it's seeing AC, but it's really DC, and all you're doing is opening those switches, opening and closing them, stopping the current from running. So it thinks it's seeing alternating current when in fact it's still DC current.
I do remember these switches, and I can't remember what, because my buddy Ralph, he does a lot of Mitsubishi stuff, and he was explaining these,
Mm-hmm.
like, and there's like an acronym like ICBT or something. I don't know
Yeah,
what it
it's
is.
yeah, you almost said it. It's 4 letters, and I've done this presentation when I had to teach the Emerson Inside the nationally sales team after we unveiled these drives, but I haven't been around it in about 4 months or so. But you're right. It's there's a G in there for sure. It's got gates or something, and
Mm-hmm.
I'd have to go back and look and refresh my memory of the terminology. But yeah, that's you're exactly right. Your
We're
memory's
close.
good.
We're close.
You're darn close. Yeah.
I remember the
The next
conversation
time
because
I
they
come on,
opened.
I'll know the terminology.
Well, I remember these things. They're like thousands of times they open by second or every few seconds. An
Yes.
extreme amount of times it switches back and forth.
Yeah. It's keeping that sine wave really close to the center there, and instead of going, that up and down, that positive negative like we normally know a sine line, you're keeping it real tight to that middle line, and but at the end of the day, you're manipulating the hertz. You know what I mean? You're lowering that and speeding that hertz up by those gates, opening that pulse width modulation. You're opening and closing it. The faster you open them up, this am I saying that right? The faster you open up, you're slowing the motor down. If the longer you keep them open, you're speeding the motor up. I hope I'm not butchering that up for you right now, but that's what you're doing. You're manipulating it, that DC, to making it look like AC. And the faster you close and shut or open and close those gates, is you're manipulating that hertz of that motor.
So it's like a very, very effective artificial sine wave. Is that accurate?
That yeah, I would say that's a good statement. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it is. And you know, it's even folks that are work around this stuff all the time. I have found that it's such new technology to everyone. It can be difficult for the most savvy person. You know what I mean? But I'm one, like you, like all of us, it's been around a little while anyways. Anything new will become old, and it'll become old hat. You know what I mean? We'll get it. It'll be here. And the more we get exposed to it, like anything else, repetition, we'll understand it better. But it is really neat. That's why I said earlier, what I was trying to say, sometimes I don't word things very well, is it's not going to be as easy as some of the things we've learned in the past. So the quicker you can get around it, and I don't care how smart you are, you can. And I have a lot of smart friends, like you have a lot of smart friends. I've yet to meet any of my friends that are really, really intelligent, a heck of a lot smarter than I am, that could sit down and tell me about variable speed for a half hour, an hour. It's still new to a lot of folks out there, at least in the people that I've met anyways, and I've met quite a few of them.
Yeah, that's how I feel about it. I mean, that's relatively new to me. So, I mean, we have a lot of smart guys on our chat. I'm lucky that all my friends are smarter than me. They tell me that's a bad thing if you're at the very bottom, but I'm lucky because everyone I know is smarter than me, which is great. And this, go ahead.
No, I love being there though, because I feel like I'm winning. You know what I mean? Because I'm just glad that my smart friends want to hang out with me, because I have nothing to offer.
Oh man, they want to look good. Are you kidding?
I'm winning because I'm absorbing everything they say. I told Eric Kaiser today, I said, when you're around, I just don't say anything. I just listen and go, shut up. It's like, I should pay you just to hang out with you, so, but we all learn something, right? Everybody learns something from somebody.
Hey, Kaiser's not that smart. He shaved that stash off.
I know. I'm thinking you really need a pipe now. I feel like we lost something here.
Yeah, it's like Tom Selleck when he shaved his mustache off. It's like, who is this guy? What happened to Quigley? Where'd he go?
I know. I feel like I couldn't carry on this relationship anymore with you without the mustache.
Don, I want to take a moment because I know we're about to wrap up. I just want to thank you because it's nice to have somebody take their time and talk to me for what is almost an hour. That is more of a specialist. I know you won't call yourself an expert or something, but you know a lot about it. But I appreciate you taking the time to call in, especially when it wasn't scheduled, just spur of the moment, which is what I've been seeking after with these shows, for people to feel like they can participate no matter what level of trade they're in. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, you're welcome, Zach.
So, and I'll let you get back to whatever you were doing, which is probably about what I'll be doing in 15 minutes, which is sitting in a chair about to fall asleep.
That's where I'm headed, bud.
Thank you, Don. I really appreciate it, and I'll send you an email so we can set up something scheduled and maybe have another talk.
Okay, Zach. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Don. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Bye.
See you, bud.
That was Don Gillis from Emerson, and really nice for him to call into the show. And I appreciate every caller that calls into this show. And it's nice that we get some people on there that we're used to learning from, that teach us in these webinars, that teach us these videos online from Emerson. You'll see Don in those videos. It's really cool to have him call into the show, get a lot of good information. And I like for people to feel like they can call into this and discuss things. I do know whenever he was talking about VFDs that RJ was going to say these suckers have been around forever. I was waiting for him to type that because I've heard about them for a long time, and I think he did somewhere. It's somewhere up there. It's like they've been around here for a long time. And I know they have. I know things have come a long way. And a guy like Don or some of his comrades from Emerson, and then definitely RJ here in the chat, know a lot about this stuff. One day RJ should be on this show. He's always commenting, but he seems like a bastion of electrical knowledge. So we could bring him in here and he could educate us on some of this stuff, which would be pretty fun, I think. Be pretty fun. But he is the avatar I know is like I don't know if that's a DC hero with no face. Is that right, RJ? Are you the DC? I don't remember his name, if that's correct. There was a DC superhero that had no face. He was like an investigative reporter type. I don't know. But a lot of fun. I think we got to everything on the list here. And RJ does say insulated gate bipolar transistor, or IGBT, is a 3-terminal power semiconductor device. The Invisible Man. Okay. I think I was thinking of a different guy. That's not the Invisible Man that I was thinking of. Okay. But it wouldn't be the first time I've been wrong. Not even the first time on this show. Not even the first time during this paragraph of my speech. That's how it is, though. But I have to do some sponsor stuff, which I'm glad I remembered because we had such a good conversation. I wasn't about to stop it in the middle of that because that would have been horrible. That would have been a horrible idea. I have to bring up our stuff here. Let me see if I'm in the right area. I'm going to bring myself to the right area here. And I am going to bring up our sponsor information. We have several good sponsors. We're going to be adding Jobber this month. We'll have some more information about Jobber. And that'll be coming up probably in shows next week. And they're going to be with us for a few months. But we have a Yellow Jacket. That's a Yellow Jacket Turbo Recovery Machine. The brand new, I guess, brushless. Is that brushless? People say digital motor. I say brushless because I think that's what they mean. So there it is. It works great. I used it myself on the job a couple weeks ago. It worked beautifully. I was taking all the R22 out of a machine so we could load it full of fractionatable R22B. 422B. Let me say again. Okay. RJ lives in Texas then. Okay. Hey, give away your location, RJ. Come on now. Get on the internet and come on the show one day. We got Navac here with 2 vacuum pumps, which I think are very nice. 2 batteries and a pump make you a happy residential service technician or light commercial service technician. The break-free cordless vacuum pump NP2 DLM 2CFM or MP4 DLM, which is the 4CFM. Both those are really great. I've owned both of them. I've used both of them. That 2CFM can do more than you give it credit for. So, I mean, if you're a residential guy, even if you say, this thing is 5 tons, it'll never work. Well, it does work. And you have your 2 batteries, you're covered for 2 hours of runtime. And as long as your system ain't a stinker full of water, you're good to go. Hey, buy a 3rd battery, though, if you really feel about that. Or they have a corded adapter now, so you can plug it in. There was a whole thing about not being able to get corded adapters for vacuum pumps because they had to have I guess there was testing for a UL listing that they had to do. It took a while, but they are available. I know they're out there. CompanyCam.com, the only app every contractor needs. Document your jobs, communicate with your crews, cover your company's buttocks. Take pictures, consolidate them, you share them with other people in your company. Everyone's aware of what's going on every job. The boss man can look in and know what's going on, and you'll have those periodicals and pictures ready for any customer interactions where they are doubting what you did. You'll have it documented, be able to cover your butt. That's what it says. That's what it's for. CompanyCam.com. EWC, I got a load of these dampers in my house, 3 of them to be exact, 3 different zones. Got the BM Plus 3000, the same panel you see on the screen. An excellent zone panel. I just like the way you can customize it a lot. I think that's probably the best way to say that. There's so many things you can adjust from the temperatures it cuts out on, the safety temperatures, to the staging. There's a lot of great features on this, and that fits pretty much 90% of all the applications that I would use: heat pumps, air handlers, ACs, furnaces, things like that. The BM Plus 3000 is a great thermostat, but EWC also has wireless thermostats, Wi-Fi thermostats, and some of the most reliable dampers. I was about to say, I didn't want to say the model number because right now I'm doubting if I had the right model number. I'm not about to have an EWC commercial and quote a model number from a different system. So we'll say power open, power close, dampers. That's what I'm going to go with. TrueTech Tools, you can save 8% with the Shop Talk discount code. That makes TrueTech Tools love us, and they contact us periodically to say, hey, want to try a tool? And I'll be like, hey, okay. And they are going to send something out. They're sending out some kind of IAQ monitor, which what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it here in the office, and I'll show you guys how it works. These aren't reviews. I don't review things for sponsors because that's a conflict of interest. But I will demonstrate them if I think they are worthwhile. And if they're not worthwhile, you'll never know because I'll contact them and say, hey, there's something wrong with this. But that really doesn't happen very often. In fact, I don't remember the last time that happened. And we have, last but not least, Refrigeration Technologies, all the coil cleaners you need for all of your preventive maintenances this season. And I like to say, from the type of coil cleaner that's soft and gentle to the one that cuts your fins off if you leave it on there too long. Refrigeration Technologies at refridgetech.com. Alrighty then, guys. We didn't take any phone calls tonight from you guys out there in the chat, but we got Don to call in, Don Gillis from Emerson, and that was a lot of fun. I'll be back on Sunday night. Perhaps we'll play Skilled Trade Up. I'll see about getting us a guest on Sunday night, but as always, open to phone calls. Any guest that comes on this show is going to be subjected to your phone calls. So if you want to know something, let me know. If you want me to find out information, let me know and I'll try to find it out. Because I'm working on Blue On right now. We'll see if that lady will go on a recording with me so I can play it for you guys on the show, kind of learn some of the things about Blue On that we wanted to know. And there's a few other things I'm trying to chase down, but we'll go over that if it pans out. Okay, guys, my name is Zach Psioda. This is the HVAC Shop Talk podcast. I appreciate you listening / watching, depending on which one you're doing. I'm going to scan the chat real quick. Albert's asking cordless yet. The cordless vacuum pump, and I've used both of them. Both of them are good. Depending on what portion of the industry you're in, I'd say anyone working on residential tonnages, 5 tons and lower, can use this thing. If you have a 10-ton system and it has 2 5-ton circuits you're working on, and you're just doing one of the circuits, of course, that'll work too. Just anything in that area. You see a lot of information on the screen from Streamlabs. That is the moderating bot or whatever. There's a lot of links to stuff you can do. If you want to support the channel, you can become a member by clicking the join button or hitting the link. You can also support via Subscribe Star if you'd rather do that. I used to urge people to do that because YouTube takes a chunk of the donations, a large chunk, but I found that people like to do the memberships because you get the cool icons on the screen and stuff, and that's fine too. But I really appreciate that. Either way, and there's some other information, live stream notifications. You can join those, and I'll text you before every live stream. But all that's in the description as well, so you can find that there. All right, guys, I'm out of here. I'll be back on Sunday night with a brand new show. I hope to see you there. And I don't know. I guess I'm going to bed. I'll see you guys on the next one.